Okay, this is for the Pan-Africanist and anybody else who just so happened to listen. It's also a very urgent alert. If you know anybody of Ghanaian descent, and I'm talking about people that are in Ghana, maybe you can tell this to people that are from Ghana, but people that are in Ghana, your president is an egregious sellout. Whenever white folk give black people the highest awards that a nation can give them, because recently the president of Ghana received the equivalent of the Medal of Honor. And you got to think to yourself, you're the leader of an African country. What in the living hell? Like, why do you deserve the Medal of Honor? Like, what did this guy do? We haven't heard of him. I mean, did he go to Afghanistan and defeat the terrorists? And is he standing at the Afghan border with all the weapons that the terrorists got from us? I mean, was there an airplane full of terrorists headed out of Ghana? And did he lead a clear team of Ghana SWAT team guys to go in there and shoot them up? Or, were the terrorists headed to France? Like, why exactly are you being given the Ghanaian, or better yet, the French Medal of Honor? This is the highest thing that you can get in France. This is what they give war heroes. Like, what the fuck? What did you do? Now pause for a quick second. If y'all remember, even though I'm the only black man that seemed like I mentioned it or even cared, when Deion Sanders left the HBCU, historically black college and university, he left a bunch of black boys behind and he went all the way out there to Colorado. Did anybody besides me strangely notice all of the props and all of the attention that they gave to Deion? They even had Deion on Club Shay Shay, and the name of the particular episode was Giving Deion His Flowers. Oh my God, you're going to Colorado. But I'm going to tell you something, man. There was an undertone to that. And I'm going to tell you the undertone. I just told you. You abandoned blackness. You abandoned a bunch of black boys that likely didn't have no daddy, that got to look up to a 3-time Super Bowl champion, a NFL Hall of Famer. Do you know what you meant to those black boys? And we're so proud of you for assuring, or at least doing the most you could to make sure that they are as close to a bunch of failures with no father figure type man in their life. We're so proud of you. Fuck them little bastards. And then on top of that, why didn't those little bastards go to a white college? They're a bunch of little racists. We're so proud of you, Deion. I'm going to explain to you the undertone. Now back to this story. The meaning of terrorism has an official meaning. I can probably take time to look it up now, and I'm pretty sure it means to terrorize, to bomb, to murder, to kill, for the sole purpose of terrorizing a civilian population that is non-military. Now, back in August 2024, a group that you're seeing, if you look down there in the red, you'll see a name of a group that's named. It's called JNIM. Okay. They are a terrorist group of Tuaregs and multi-racial bastards that were fucked into a bunch of African women and abandoned in the desert. And the only thing they bitch-made daddies do is come back and retrieve their daughters from an African woman out in the desert and throw her, probably at the age of 5 and 6, to another man, and then teach his bitch-made son, who looks like a Somali or a Sudanese, that you're not an African, you're a Muslim, and hate black Africans, okay? Hate the people that look like your mama. And they never exactly do nothing for these guys, but maybe give them weapons and a flimsy, stinking-ass Koran, all right? So there are terrorist groups, and they have been terrorizing North Africa for the last, to tell you the truth, decades, but it has picked up tenfold. There's been a 5,000 to 7,000% increase in terrorist attacks Ever since the collective West, and when I say collective West, I mean everything above Mexico and below Canada. Hint, hint, blink, blink. Ever since the collective West and France have gotten there, the attacks have gotten worse. And Burkina Faso has lost 30 to 45% of their sovereign land is in the hands of terrorists. Now you might wonder, hey, isn't terrorism a bad thing? We got attacked back in 93, World Trade Center bombing, back in 2001. No need to talk about that. And then we've been battling terrorists for the last 2 decades. Why does it all of a sudden now seem like terrorism is just not a bad thing? Because most of you all don't read what I read. Whenever you read an article about Burkina Faso, 100% of the blame is directed toward the government. Now, let's take a quick pause break and let me give you a few little realities. And I'm going to get down to the nitty gritty and the straight up, just pure reality of this situation. Nobody white. When I mention these countries, especially a country by the name of Niger, like literally, or Chad, Chad, or Mali, Mali, or Burkina. Nobody white cares. Like, what would anybody white give a damn about? Like, explain that one to me, bro. Why should I care? I mean, I don't. I mean, I know that those are probably some far off African countries that are living life like 100 or 500 years ago. Like, why should I care? Uranium, plutonium, and gold. France is the powerhouse of Europe, and France needs the uranium. There's only 2 other areas that uranium is found, actually 3. Chile, but they don't sell theirs, Kazakhstan, and Canada. In Kazakhstan and in Canada, the going price for uranium is $280 per kilogram. They are getting it out of Niger, Chad, and Burkina for 80 cents. That's 2 quarters and 3 dimes. Now, whenever you see a government toppled, that means that the only way that you really are getting something for 80 cents per kilogram that everybody else is charging you $280 to get, that means that you've paid off the government. Look, we'll give you 3 or 4 million and we'll share a little bit of the interest that we make off this uranium with you, just a little bit of it. But you just sit there in the palace and sleep with little girls. We'll even bring you some French girls from our orphanages. They're all Eastern European, but just imagine that they're French, and you can do whatever you want to do. Sit up here and get fat. We'll bring you some 300-year-old bottles of wine. At least we'll tell you that they're 300 years old. And man, you can be the corrupt despot all you want to. We don't give a shit. And when your people start to act up, the American people and the Europeans, they look at you all as monkeys. So when they see a bunch of Africans in the street, they just know that the apes are running wild. Maybe something needs to be done about that. Oh, well, we're over there helping the government fight against, their wild monkey ass people. Well, what are the wild monkey ass people mad over? They probably had a fat white girl fucking dictator for about 40 or 50 years and they want to get rid of them. But they know that in the collective West, they can deal with the population very simplistically. Well, we're going over there to assist the military in their fight against terrorism. I'm going to tell you what terrorism is. Terrorism is the population rising up against a bunch of people that's been sitting up sleeping with white girls and drinking 10-year-old bottles of wine that the French people are telling them are 300 years old and just letting them slap him in the pocket with about $2 or $3 million a year while they take everything the country is worth. That's what goes on. Because when it comes down to actual terrorism, Whenever you read the articles that are printed about Burkina Faso, now what happened in 2022, the so-called junta said, enough of this. Not only are you not fighting terrorists in the country, but we've gotten you over the radio and we tapped into your computer screens. When we had waves back in 2021, October, there were waves of these people out there. And we was out there fighting like a dog. Man, look, you thought a lot of those people that were in your intelligence room were your just black soldiers. No. Many of them were Burkinabs. And we just sent a few light-skinned ones over there so y'all would think that they were American soldiers. And they told us everything that's going on. You're sitting up there looking straight up from the GPS at these waves of terrorists coming our direction. You didn't say shit. We had entire units wiped out. You had the drones sitting there. You had artillery sitting there, and you didn't do nothing. Get the fuck out of here. So whenever you read about these countries putting out the French and the Americans knew what they were doing, or better yet, not doing. And when you look at this sellout, and I'm just saying, the people in Ghana need to be aware that these people are in your country. These terrorists are in your country, and I've always said something. Who the fuck do these desert-dwelling people that sit up there with camels and goats and chickens living in a damn sand house? Where the fuck you get fucking track vehicles? Where you get big giant 2.5 tons? Where the fuck you get all your weapons from? Where? You're not developing it, and now you see. Let me read what this says. It clearly says right there, JNIM, and what they're talking about is that the Ghanaian government, they're so corrupt. The only thing that I can say is that the people in the north part of Ghana must be of a completely different ethnic group. There must be totally different ethnic groups in the middle and the southern of the country. But one thing I can tell you, and this has been noted by these international observers, these dudes don't get to plant themselves nowhere. And they just ever so gently walk off and don't eventually begin attacking the terrorists or attacking the populations around them. So your country, whether you're a Ghanaian citizen or whether you're a Ghanaian expat, your country is compromised. And you want to talk about, I'm talking about a piece of walking doo-doo is pretty much your president. And the Ghanaian people are completely ignorant. They don't know about this. There's one news agency that reported it, and hundreds of Ghanaians are talking about, flag this video, flag this video. This is so completely misinformation. But, the video is like a year old. They just don't know. I say, man, look here. Y'all are ignorant. Even though I was sending comments to people that commented months and months ago, I say, you're ignorant. You just don't know what's going on in your country, man. Your country's being sold out, and your country is stoking extreme hostilities because these people back in August, they went across the border all the way up into the capital city of Burkina and killed over 500 people, man. That's pretty much a terrorist attack that was launched from your soil. So what Burkina did is that they've called in Russia and China. And they got the Wagner group there. And whenever you read what the Ghanaian president is trying to say right now, and you'll hear me elaborate on this in future videos, he's trying to say, well, they've got Wagner there. And then when the Western news media writes about it, they'd be like, Wagner has been responsible for all type of human violations and rights. This is an act of war. What is Burkina doing? The truth and reality is that Burkina is not giving you gold for very little to nothing. They're not going to be sending their children down into gold mines, getting dusty and dirty all day with a life expectancy of 15 years old, while a bunch of rich kids in France are rich for the next 1,000 years. and you're going to have to pay for the uranium, the same price that everybody else charges. If not, then you just going to have a little bit of a price hike, a big time price hike in your energy. And if we the only ones that you're going to get it from, then freeze in the middle of winter, bitch. Pay me the same thing that everybody else is charging, motherfucker. But these Euro-Caucasians have it in their minds that you're lesser than monkeys, and how dare you. And see, Ibrahim Traore, and I'm going to do more videos about him. He's the youngest leader in Africa. He's part of the cell phone generation. You know, he knows what his country looks like, and he says enough is enough. He's already got the city building plans and everything out there. But you'll only know this if you follow the African channels that give you the truth. You are not going to just basically look him up and find too much of anything other than typical Western racism. And they will be more condemning, because what happened is that after that terrorist attack in August, they moved Wagner, the Russian missionary, a mercenary group. They moved Wagner down there. And basically they said, look, they gave Wagner access to a gold mine. And they say, keep them motherfuckers on the other side. We running joint operations, and they're still building up their own military to where eventually, I mean, they're already controlling their border. Wagner's just a bigger group with the bigger guns with a whole lot of experience, you know, in fighting Ukraine. See, you also had, and I did a video about this, the Ukrainian Nazis. They hooked up with the terrorists because they launched an attack against Wagner in Mali. I think it was back in July or August. It might have been October. But they killed like 5 or 6, actually a few dozen Wagners. But this is Nazis, Ukrainian Nazis, all the way over in Africa, working with terrorists. Now, ain't that just a bitch to deal with? If you the president of Burkina, Niger, and fucking Mali, I got to deal with Nazis and fucking terrorists. What a life. Like, really. Being supported by France, and the collective West. What a life I'm having. Like, really. So whenever you look at these junta leaders and you ask yourself, why don't you never see these guys in presidential uniforms? You imagine being surrounded with a bunch of bastard Islamic Arabs, the two of the biggest military powers in the world, supplying these bastard Islamic Arabs, and you have a traitorous piece of shit president in Ghana who is too big of a coward to actually get terrorists out of his country, and who wants to demonize you for standing up and doing what you have to do to keep these folks out of your country and keep your population safe. The only thing that the collective West is going to do is call Ibrahim Traore, President Tiani, and the president of Mali, you know, junta leaders who took over, you know, undemocratically elected junta leaders, you know, and it's like, get the fuck out of here, you pieces of garbage, because clearly and apparently the only time that you truly apply the term terrorist is when these people kill white people. Other than that, you go right over to them, join with them, and get them to help you raid and ransack African resources, because the Africans dare to charge you or say you're going to pay us the same as everybody else. Anyways, this has been one of the most disgusting videos that I've had to do, because the blood curdling hypocrisy of the collective West and France and all these other countries, it's just so extreme. It's so extreme. And I'm straight up telling you, it makes me hate the country that I live in. I'll leave it at that.